Dwyer, founding attorney of Legacy Legal LLC. Now, without further ado, I turn this over to Tanya Hawley, who will introduce the moderator. Tanya?
Thank you, Janice. Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone is having a great day so far. I have the pleasure of introducing our facilitator this evening, which is Miss Deborah Williams. Deborah, a native of Chase City, Virginia, is the owner of a Fresh Start LLC, which focuses on educating the community about credit and budgeting. She also founded the Launch Soaring into Higher Education, dedicated to assisting and researching scholarships for college-bound students. In 2019, Deborah co-founded the Women Entrepreneurship Network United Incorporated, better known as WeNew. This initiative aims to empower women by fostering an environment where they can support, uplift, and encourage one another. WeNew provides a platform for women to harness their passions and skills, helping them move closer to realizing their entrepreneurial dreams. A Fresh Start LLC, founded in 2006 by Deborah, addresses the crucial need for educating families about credit and budgeting. With a deep passion for teaching, Deborah believes that knowledge is power. The company specializes in improving derogatory payment histories, assisting clients denied home loans or refinancing, rebuilding credit scores, resolving judgments, and creating personalized budgets. Please join me in welcoming our facilitator for the evening, Miss Deborah Williams.
Thank you, Tanya. How's everybody doing? Well, I have the graciousness to introduce you to our speaker for this evening. Her name is Jeannie Kearney. She's a financial coach. Jeannie is a financial coach who combines her live experiences as a working woman and single mother with sound financial concepts. She is a licensed insurance agent and a registered securities representative who understands the unique challenges faced by middle class families and is committed to providing personalized financial guidance. Her passion is closing the knowledge gap that prevents middle class families from maximizing their income, savings, and investing and escaping their debt cycle. With a technical background as a licensed professional engineer and a retired military officer, Dee applies the problem solving skills of an engineer, the sense of order from her military experience, and the compassionate practicality needed to raise children to create effective financial plans. Her goal is to relieve the financial stress that causes tension in households while ensuring clients have realistic goals and are on track to meet them. So, with no further ado, I'd like to introduce you to our speaker of this evening, Jeannie Kearney, our financial coach. Hello, Jeannie.
Let me make sure I am mute. Hi, everybody. Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Deborah. And I am very excited to be here this evening to talk with you about estate planning. You know, next week, well, I think in 2 weeks, there'll be a lawyer coming on to talk about it. But tonight, we're going to talk about the financial issues because the first step in estate planning is building an estate. And most of the incomes for our estates are actually commingled with retirement funds or, you know, a house that we own or something. And many times we think, well, there may not be anything left, but there will be, at least usually if you have insurance and property. But an ideal retirement plan that's properly invested should provide the income that you need for living and preserve your principal for wealth transfer. These days, a lot of people retire as what they call 401k millionaires. You may retire with $1 million or more in your 401k, your 403b, or your 457 plan. And like I said, properly invested, that's enough money to live on and leave an inheritance. So I'll stop there and we could get started.
Okay, great. So my question to you, the first question I have for you is, What is estate planning and why is it important for financial security?
Okay. So estate planning is the actual process of organizing and managing your assets and wealth to ensure their efficient distribution upon your death or incapacitation. It helps you secure your financial legacy, minimize taxes, and provides clear directions for your beneficiaries.
Okay, so how does estate planning fit into a comprehensive financial plan?
So estate planning is a critical part of financial planning. It addresses asset protection, wealth distribution, tax minimization, and continuity. One example that I give people when you talk about estate planning, my mother, when we moved her into assisted living, we told her, Mom, you got to get everything in order. You got to get a will. In her case, she didn't need a trust. But, we said, you have to have a will and you have to have all of these, you got to do your powers of attorney. And one thing that she didn't want to do was a power of attorney that could be used in an instance of her incapacitation. And we finally got her to sign it. And believe it or not, that's the one we needed the most because she became incapacitated during COVID. And the only way we could break the lease on her $3,000 a month assisted living was with that power of attorney.
So you're
So
saying that she should have had a power attorney should be in place when a person becomes ill, or should a person have a power attorney prior to before they come in ill? What would you suggest?
it should be prior to becoming ill. And so that's what I'm saying, that estate planning starts very early. Don't wait until you are, don't wait until you think it's the last minute. And in our case, we were lucky that a lawyer told us you need this power of attorney for incapacitation because our family was spending $3,000 a month on a room because we couldn't break a lease when, let me back up. We could have had to spend that money until her lease was up, but because we had that power of attorney, we were able to act on her behalf and break that lease and have the money that we needed for her care at home instead.
Okay. What are the key documents involved in estate planning? So you said power attorney, would that be a key document, correct?
That is one of them. You need a will, a trust, a power of attorney, a healthcare directive, and beneficiary designations on accounts like your life insurance policies and your retirement plans.
Wow, that's very interesting. So for any of us on here, you're saying we need all of these documents, or some of these may apply to certain ones, or should we have everyone you just listed? If some of our members can indicate what you said in the chat, it'd be great. So you said a will?
Right. I see somebody put in here, if I could answer first, somebody says, what is a POA? And a POA is a power of attorney.
Right.
And that is something that everybody needs. A power of attorney that says there's medical powers of attorney, that's the healthcare directive. When you go to the doctor now, and even if they're going to do a outpatient surgery, they always ask you, do you have your advanced healthcare directive? That's a power of attorney saying, this is what I want done if I become incapacitated. Then you need one that would allow other people to make decisions for you, the power of attorney to allow other people to make decisions for you when you can't make them for yourself. That's the first thing. The next thing you need is you need to make sure that you have proper beneficiary designations on all of your financial accounts. That means your checking account. Do you have a proper designation? Do you say whether or not it is a transfer on death? Or is there just a beneficiary who would receive the money? On your life insurance, are your beneficiaries up to date? Did you make sure when you went through life changes that you updated your beneficiaries? For example, when your children became of age, maybe before you had your mother or your sister or something, but now maybe you want that to go to your children. Then there's a will. A will is a very simple document for transferring your assets and your wealth, or you may have a trust, which is a more complex document for transferring your assets.
Okay. Thank you. A lot. So I'm putting in the chat what I got from you so far is the will, the power of attorney, the trust, and you can have when you sign into the hospital. I'm sorry, you saying that is
That's a medical power of attorney. It's also called an advanced healthcare
advanced
directive.
directive? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Thank you. Next question is, what role does a financial planner advisor play in a estate planning process?
So a financial advisor helps you align your financial goals with your estate plans. They review all of your assets, advise you on tax strategies, and ensure that the plan that you put in place is sustainable. And then we collaborate with estate attorneys to create an effective plan.
Okay. How do assets get distributed if someone dies without a will? So if I have no will, how would my assets go to if I have more than one child? Or if I
Yeah.
would distribute to someone else and I said that to them verbally, but I did not have a will?
Yeah. So if you die without a will, every state has something that they call intestacy laws, and your assets are going to be distributed in accordance with those laws. Now, this is not legal advice, okay? But for example, in the state of Georgia, your assets might first go to your spouse, okay? But it depends on the ages of your children. If your spouse is not alive, then, or if you maybe never were legally married, then your assets would be distributed amongst your children. If they were not alive, then they would start looking for sisters and brothers, uncles, cousins. You know, they're going to look for the whole family. But the biggest thing to understand about dying without a will is that the court will appoint an administrator to distribute your assets. So it could be a total stranger
Wow.
that comes in and does that. And let me say one thing before that. Before they distribute your assets, all of your bills have to be paid. So depending on the situation, there may not be anything left if you don't have a will.
So in that situation, what you said, a will, and I see the question is, if a person has one child, I'm gonna just use me for example. If I have one
Okay.
child and I have designated my son as the beneficiary for everything that I have, is it necessary, even though I know we will be talking in 2 weeks with the attorney, which you all need to be back on that one as well, but that will determine to me, if I just have one person I just want to leave everything to as a beneficiary, wouldn't have to go in probate court, but still, should I have that listed in a will or a trust? Or should I have a will or a trust if I'm gonna leave
Okay.
everything as the beneficiary with this
If you're
person?
gonna leave, okay. So that's here's the way I can answer that. A lot of that depends on if you are debt free or not.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
If you were debt free and you had your son designated on everything as as a beneficiary on in your life insurance, on your checking account, if you had a transfer on death clause for your deed for your house, for your car, if you had everything, if your son was a beneficiary on everything, you might not need a will. But if you missed one thing, your son would have to go to court, and he could be named he could be named the executor of your
Executor
estate,
estate.
but he would
Right.
have to go to court and go through probate. to do
So
it.
that's where the difference where you're saying then, Jeannie, is too, is the will, where we see the difference between a will and a trust, right?
Okay.
So because I'm trying to figure out, like, if I had the will, I still might have to go to court regardless. I mean, whoever whoever it is, the beneficiary, whoever, because they might still have to go, because like you said, there could be debt that the person who passed away didn't think about when they just leave it, and still those bills got to be paid,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. A will has to go through probate.
Okay.
Okay. All wills go through probate court, where if the will says this person is an executor, then the court will affirm that. If there's no will, or the executor in the will has passed or is not willing to do the work, then the court will appoint an executor.
Okay. Okay.
And if you die with no will, and once again, I'll unfortunately use my mother as this example. If you die with no will, then somebody in your family has to go to the court and ask to have an executor appointed.
Really?
Yes. And the legal person, the lawyer, will get into this more, but then if there are more than one child, all those children have to agree on, somebody has to do has to create a record of all the assets. Then all the children have to agree on how those assets are going to be distributed, which is not always friendly within families.
So this could happen too when someone come and contest the will, when another child just may show up from nowhere that you didn't know. I've heard of that, and this what may prolong the person who thought he was the only one can get the funds, because now there's someone else is contesting this will.
It could be that. That is correct. It could also be when my father died, we had 3 children over the age of 18 and 1 below the age of 18. And all of the kids over the age of 18 had to sign paperwork so that my mother could get everything.
Yeah.
Even though he had a will.
Yep. I seen that in my family. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Happened. That's exactly right.
Yeah. Yeah. So that is what a will is. The way that I have heard it said is a will is a suggestion on how you want your assets distributed, and a trust is hard to break. Because in a trust, your assets have actually been removed from your name and placed in the trust. And there's already a trustee, and there's usually a successor trustee, and there's already a plan that's laid out for transferring those assets.
Okay. Okay. All right. This is some great information. So let me ask you this. So how do assets get distributed if someone dies without a will? So that's what you're saying, they will have to go through court, correct?
So, yeah, if someone dies without a will, then you have to go to the court. Someone has to be named the executor. You have to wait a period of time to make sure that you have to advertise in the paper. If this person owed any debts, people come forward to say what those debts are and everything. And that is generally about 9 months to a year. And then once that is resolved, then if all the family members that are eligible by law, sign and agree, this is how the assets will be distributed, then they are distributed. One thing to think about during that period of time, if there are things going on, like if there's a mortgage on the house, that has to continue to be paid. Any bills that person had when they died that are like monthly bills, they continue to have to be paid, or they will fall in arrears.
So, oh, wait a minute. So,
I'm sorry.
all right. So, okay, wait a minute.
It's a lot, yeah.
We're paying, okay, if they had a trust, because here's the biggest questions.
Okay.
Question between the trust and the will. And like we said, the attorney is coming on next month in 2 weeks. So she's going to
Yeah.
give you the legal. Jeannie is telling you the difference, but the attorney will be on to talk about it deeper. Okay, so she
Right.
can tell you the
Mhm.
laws of it. But far as the difference, would you recommend then should we, if we have more than one child, should we have a trust and a will, or should we just have one? And that's the trust. And forget
And forget the will. That is, I think that's a question for you and your attorney.
okay.
And I'm gonna say this is my opinion. This is only my opinion. Um, if your assets are mostly liquid,
Mhm.
you might can just have a will, except that all your business will be in the street because the probate court is public.
Got it.
If you don't have a house and other assets, you could do it without a will, and you know, you could.
Okay, this is, oh wow. Okay, here's another question then. What financial factors should be considered when selecting your beneficiaries?
Okay, well, you need to think about your beneficiaries' financial maturity, what their needs are, and what any tax implications are for your for your executor, and also potential creditors. You have to think about how the distributions might affect government benefits or eligibility for certain programs. Don't well, you do what you want to with your money, but sometimes we want to give money to people that never had any, and that's okay, but you have to know that, are they going to be financially responsible with that? If you give money to someone that is already very wealthy, maybe it needs to be spread out over several years, so they don't have tax implications. And especially if you have a special needs child, or someone in your someone who's going to receive the money gets some sort of government benefits, you really want to make sure that you give the money to them in a way that's not going to increase their income and affect those government benefits.
Okay. Interesting. So how does estate planning help reduce estate taxes?
So we help through strategies. Maybe if you have a lot of money, over 6 million right now, it's a temporary expansion to 11 million. But if you have over $6 million, your estate might be subject to estate taxes. In that case, it may be better to do a charitable trust and give away some of the money that way. We look at ways that you can utilize exemptions and reduce your taxable estate so that you minimize your estate taxes and you preserve wealth for your heirs.
I have noticed where I used to live in California, I noticed that the person passed away and they left all of their estate to the fish that was inside the hospital, which was shocking to me. So I don't know, maybe sometimes people have family members they want to leave it to, but like you're saying, maybe they wasn't responsible, so they'll make a donation and make sure it goes to this whole fountain of fish. I couldn't believe it, but I mean, these were these exotic fish in this hospital that
Right.
had a huge pond inside, but they said it was left by a owner from their estate. The
To the
money to
city.
keep them. Yeah, this is inside the hospital.
Oh, okay.
So that was interesting. I didn't know at that time, I was real young, that you can do that. So, okay, let me ask you this. So, what is the impact of estate planning on retirement accounts? Like if we have a 401 and an IRA. So, what's the impact?
Okay. So for your 401 and your IRA, it's really important that you have the right beneficiary designations on them, because the correct plan can help your beneficiaries defer taxes through rollovers. And that helps to extend your tax deferred growth period.
Okay. Okay. So, how does the insurance policies far as an estate plan, how does that affect estate plan, like with your insurance policies?
So you can, if you have a large estate, you can have an insurance policy that would allow your heirs to pay the taxes that would be due on your estate. Insurance policies also help support surviving family members, and insurance policies always transfer outside of probate. So kind of going back to your previous question on do I need a will, an insurance policy will automatically transfer. The money will not be taxed, and it happens outside of probate.
Really? That's
Yeah.
good to know. Okay, so the person is not taxed on, like if the person will not be taxed on that money?
No. Mm-mm.
Oh, okay, okay. Interesting. So what is the impact of estate planning on retirement accounts? Like, as we said about 401, but what would you recommend if no one has a 401? Just thinking out of the box. If a person do not have a 401 or IRA, but they have monies, just money in a savings account, would they happen to, let's say if they have a beneficiary, like in a bank account, like you just said,
Yeah,
just like a savings account. So
right.
if they do not have a beneficiary listed, does that money sits there in account till the person have to go to probate to get that money out of the person passed away account? Like if that's their child, or that money just sits there with the bank? You see what I'm saying? Because sometimes people do not know how much money is left in that person's account, but they did know they had a bank account and there are funds and they want to collect those funds.
Yeah, so I have two answers to that. Okay. First off, if you don't have a IRA or a 401k and you are keeping all of your money in a savings account, that is dangerous for a couple of reasons. Number one, any amount in a savings account over $250,000 is not insured by the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. If anything should happen to your bank, which we know that has happened, almost every other month, we do hear about a bank going under. You may not get anything that's above 250,000. The second thing is that money in savings accounts generally does not earn enough interest to keep up with inflation. So while you may not be losing money, you are losing purchasing power. So you need to always think about having a savings account is good to have, 6 months when you're retired. It is good to have anywhere from 6 months to 2 years worth of expenses in a savings account, but anything above that should be placed I would recommend be placed in an investment vehicle that can actually help you grow that money through the years. Now, in terms of estate planning, when you die, if there was no beneficiary on your account, then yes, that money will sit there until a will is probated. Or,
Okay.
And I say a will is probated because if you had a trust, hopefully you had that account in the trust. But the money will sit there until the courts say it can be moved.
Okay. I see a question is, someone said, isn't it true that if you have a trust, you still need the will to catch what you forget to put in the trust?
That is something that you can do. And that would be something the lawyer would have to recommend. But there is something that is called, I believe it's called a testamentary will. And it's basically a will that says anything that I forgot to put in the trust, roll it into the trust when I die.
Oh, wow. That's
But
good.
but you'll still go through probate
Oh, jeez.
with those items.
Okay. Okay. Alrighty then. What are the common financial mistakes people make in estate planning?
So the most common is failing to update beneficiaries. The second is not considering tax implications. Nowadays, neglecting your digital assets. If you have cryptocurrency, that would need to be in your estate plan. And then forgetting to revise your estate plan after a major life event. You know, unfortunately, right now, there's a lot of gray divorces. People get divorced, or even their partner or spouse passes or becomes very ill, and our children get married, children get divorced, and people forget to update estate plans.
Okay. A question, if a person still have a mortgage but want to create a trust, will the mortgage require full payment of the balance due the home going into the trust? Due to the home going to the trust? Yes.
Yeah, to my knowledge, it will not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. What are the common, okay, how does estate planning affect business owners and their succession plans?
Okay, so business owners should always have a succession plan so that they can ensure the continuity of their business. And this might include buy-sell agreements, trust, and clear directives to preserve the value and manage transitions smoothly.
Okay.
So simply put, your trust could be part of your succession plan could include a trust.
Okay. Now, here's a good question. What are the pros and cons of naming minors as beneficiaries in a will or on life insurance policies?
Okay. As a life insurance agent, I really discourage people from doing that. I know sometimes in situations where you have blended families, or you know the parents are not married, a parent wants to put the child down as their beneficiary, and what will happen is if you pass before that child is 18, the court is going to appoint a guardian.
Okay.
And so the child isn't going to have a say over what happens either way, because they can't. So the con is you just allowed somebody else who you don't know to be the person that's gonna dictate what happens with those funds.
Wow, wow. Okay. How can someone protect their assets from creditors and lawsuits through estate planning?
So you can protect your assets through a trust. You can protect it through a properly developed LLC. And the lawyer can probably talk about that a little bit more, but the key is you need to have a registered agent for your LLC. If you are the registered agent, anybody can find you. And then also prenuptial agreements. You know, but basically you need to look at any strategy that separates your personal assets from potential claims. And I know that I would say prenuptial agreements that people, that sounds really bad, but think about it. If you marry someone later in life and you have assets and they have assets, and you don't necessarily want your things going to their children, or they don't want their things going to your children, you know, the prenuptial agreement makes sense. I always say I'd sign one that said what happens in case of death, but not divorce. But that's just my opinion.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Let's see here. How can someone protect themselves from lawsuits through estate planning? Let's see. Let me go a little deeper. How often should someone review or update their estate planning for financial changes? Should we do it all the time, or how often?
At least every 3 to 5 years. So about every 3 years, if there has not been a major change in your life. If there's been a major change, then you need to review it right then. But if not, every 3 years, you need to make sure everything is accurate.
Okay. So with this estate planning, or will, I mean, and this is a basic question too, some of the things you include, would you include your passwords to your social links or your phones and stuff included in your wills or estate?
Yeah, not really. That is, well, okay, let me say that two ways. That is part of estate planning, but it's not part of your will.
Okay.
So one of the things, and I'm going to get my link to my digital card on here and everything, is one of the things that you do need to think about as part of your estate plan is, where are all of my important documents?
Okay.
And your passwords are part of your important documents. So I have a very long checklist of things to think about that you should put in there. If you're retired military like me, my family needs my DD 214 so they can contact the military. Your family needs to know where all of your accounts are. What are your accounts? What are the numbers? I would recommend that your passwords be in all of this should be in basically a vault, a locked digital file or a safe or something like that. But I wouldn't put your passwords in your will, because once again, that will be probated and it will be made public.
Okay. Okay. Great. How often, I'm sorry, what are the financial implications of getting assets as part of an estate plan?
Okay, so if you gift assets, that reduces your taxable estate, but it may trigger gift taxes if it's over the annual exclusion amount. So gifting can also have implications for people for Medicaid planning and eligibility. So that's why this is something that you need to speak with your financial advisor about. Is it depending on how much you're gifting and who you're gifting to, you may want to plan those gifts out prior to your eventual demise. Or if you're giving a large gift to like a university or a non-charitable organization, then you might do that charitable remainder trust.
Okay. Okay. All right. And this is what we hear a lot. How does estate planning work in blended families or with special needs children?
Yes. So with special needs children, I mean, both of them really require tailored solutions. Special needs children, though, you really need to, and the attorney can confirm this, that is really a trust situation. There is something called a special needs trust that can allow for your child to be cared for and still receive the government benefits, because, so many times we can't afford those, we can't afford to take care of our special needs children without government benefits, and you would not want them stopped for a period of time and then go try to start them back up. So that's where you have a special needs trust. Blended families, what I'm going to say is that you need a lot of communication. You need a lot of communication and write down what the situation is going to be. And as the family members become adults, tell them this is what the situation is, so that there is not strife later on.
Okay. What are the key financial considerations for charitable giving within an estate plan?
So charitable giving can really reduce your taxable estate value. It provides income tax reductions, and it also can creates a lasting legacy. Vehicles like charitable remainder trust can provide income to the donor while benefiting the charity. And a charitable remainder trust is where, you state up front, this money is going to this institution, this organization, or whatever, but in many cases it's the principal is going to the institution, but along the way, someone is going to live off of the income that's created by that principal.
Okay. And I think you spoke a little bit about this earlier, is how does one handle digital assets in an estate plan?
Yes, so digital assets need clear instructions for access and distribution. You know, you have to include them in your plan so that you don't have a loss of your valuable digital property.
Okay, so if a person asks me, what exactly are you including? What is digital? Is that when you're saying cryptocurrency or?
Cryptocurrency mostly, yeah. But you also have you know, these days you have the cryptocurrency, you have those people were doing artwork at one time, digital artwork, and it
Yeah.
was worth a lot of money. Because you could, I mean, people create things digitally these days, intellectual property.
Okay.
If you have designed or develop a program of some sort that you're being paid for, those are all digital assets, just things you can't put your hands on, but they still have value.
Someone put NFTs.
Yes, NFTs. That's the artwork that's digital.
Oh,
That's
okay,
gold,
okay.
something
Thank
or
you.
other. Yeah.
Okay, so what's the financial importance of having a power of attorney? We spoke about that earlier, but what is the financial importance of having a POA?
Yeah, it designates someone to manage your finances if you become incapacitated. And if you don't have one, and you don't have, maybe your accounts aren't joint or something like that, even if your accounts are joint, a court intervention might be required, which could delay decision-making and access to your finances. You know, I would use my situation again. During COVID, my mother got very sick, got hospitalized. When she came out of the hospital, she didn't know where she was. She couldn't function, you know, and after a couple of visits, we determined that for several reasons, she wasn't going back to assisted living, but she was paying, but we still had to every month pay for her room. You know, and I've read things where people, you know, someone died and someone had to keep paying the house note, you know, and if you don't have access to that person's account, then that money is coming out of your pocket.
So with the power of attorney, you can have a power attorney, because I know in the situation I did with my parents, is you can have a power attorney has to include a lot of different things. Some of them have to be very precise. It could be financially, it could be healthcare, or it can include all of the above and more detail. Does a person have to have an attorney to create a power attorney, or you can download the power attorneys that you see like for different states and get them notarized and witnessed?
That would be a question for the attorney. I believe that you could download them from different states. It's just typically you need the one that we had, which is called a Springer power of attorney, which says if you become incapacitated, then if a medical doctor agrees, we were able to take that. We still had to go to the courthouse and file it, and then we could initiate that power of attorney. Then there's what they call the advanced medical directive, or sometimes they call it a living will, that says, hey, if I become incapacitated, I do or do not want to be kept on life support.
Right.
You know, and then you could also have a general power of attorney, which, because both of that would say, you know, this person can make any and every decision for me during this period of time.
Correct. Okay. Yeah, that's the one I've seen is the general one, and the advanced director is usually what you get inside the facility. Okay.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, awesome, awesome. How can someone use trust to manage and distribute their assets efficiently?
Well, that is the purpose of a trust. In a trust, there is the trustee, there's a successor trustee, and then there are beneficiaries. And all of your assets are moved to the trust. So they are owned by the trust. So if something happens and if you are the trustee while you are alive, it's called a living trust, and it's typically a revocable trust. So when you're no longer there, when the first trustee is no longer on this earth, the second trustee takes over and everything has already been written out and they just execute what the trust says.
Oh, okay. All right. How can estate planning help avoid probate, and why is that financially beneficial?
So estate planning through trust, through beneficiary designations, and joint ownership, sometimes that helps avoid probate. That saves time, that saves legal costs, and it preserves your privacy. Probate can be very lengthy and it can be expensive. If you have to get an attorney and you have to go to court several times and someone protests, probate can be expensive.
Okay, so while you're saying this, and I mean, this would be great for us when we be talking to the attorney as well, because it seems like, probate will deter you from getting what you thought you were supposed to be getting. And by having a trust, seem like that will help you get where you're supposed to get, by having the trust. But probate seem like that would just prolong the situation because it could be years or months, maybe, before you can get what is rightfully you think you deserve.
Yeah.
Because it's held up in court. And like you said, then it became public. And if you had a trust, this is more like handled.
That is correct. A trust says this is what we're going to do. It was prepared by attorney, it was filed, and you're going to do what that trust says. And hopefully it was kept up to date. But whether it was or not, you can't contest a trust. That's my understanding. The attorney can verify that. A will can be contested. And while I think, and the attorney probably knows the numbers, most wills probably aren't, but particularly if you die without one, then that's very messy. That's very messy. Because, and the attorney will probably talk more about this, but in a trust, all of your assets are identified and listed. And then as someone asked earlier, you can do a pour over will that will just say anything that's not listed on here, add it in after I die. Now that pour over will still has to go through probate, but in a trust, your assets are listed. No one can dispute them. They're listed and what you want done with them. In a will, the executor has to go out and create that list.
Okay.
Which means that if you didn't tell them everything before you died, then they have to go look for things afterwards, and that can be for almost anybody, I think, can be very difficult, particularly if you were a person that maybe wasn't sharing things, but before you died, I'll go back to our situation. In our case, luckily, I was managing all my mom's stuff, so I knew this is what she has, and the family trusted me. But you hear people like celebrities die without wills. I think I'm spreading gossip here, but no, I'm not spreading gossip. But I heard, that like Prince died without a will, Aretha Franklin died without a will. Think about how big their estates are.
Right.
And a number of people that could come along and say, I have a right to this.
Right.
So
but
yeah.
it's good information. It's good information. So let me ask you this as a question in the chat. If you own a home, can you instruct the beneficiaries to give it back to the bank? That's if you still own that house.
You can. Hang on just a minute. My battery is about to die here, and I don't know what I did with my cord. Yes, you can instruct the beneficiary to sell the house or return it to the insurance company.
Okay.
You can do that in a trust. I guess you could try it in a will, but you can do it in a trust.
Okay. Okay. What happens while you're getting your battery? What happens if the asset listed in the trust and is gone or distributed prior to death. So your asset is already gone prior to your death.
That's where you should keep your trust updated. Hang on just a minute. Okay. I'm gonna switch devices. I'm so sorry.
No problem. Let us know and I can remove the other one. Or you can sign off.
I don't know if it's gonna happen if I hit leave.
Okay, so we lost her. She should be back on in a minute. I do see her on one of them. Jeannie, I see you.
All right.
Are you there?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can see you in here.
Okay. Sorry about that. I
No
didn't realize
problem.
I didn't have my cord with me. So what was the question again?
What happens if the asset listed in the trust is gone or distributed prior to death?
The trustee should know that. It should have been, and that's a legal question really, but I would say the trustee should know that and they should have designated or updated their trust. I mean, obviously those instructions can't be executed.
Okay, all right. So we're coming down to the last question. What final tips would you give to someone just starting to plan their estate financially?
A little off right now because of that. Sorry about that. So what I would say is that you need to start early. Start early, assess your financial situation, seek professional guidance, review your plan regularly, and communicate your intentions to your beneficiaries. Because a well-structured plan protects both your wealth and your loved ones.
Okay, Jenny, you gave us some great information. We're going to come back with some questions and answers. But what we're going to do now, we're going to switch it over to Janice Benford. And Janice is going to come in now, and we're going to raffle off a gift card. Janice.
Thank you so much, Deborah. And thank you, Jeannie. Great information. So we have a raffle now. And with that, it is a $30 Amazon gift card. And this was donated by Meriden Lord, a Poplar and Post. And if you would go to the chat and name the next We Knew event, the first person in the chat that could name the next We Knew event will win the raffle. The actual name of the event, not the date, not just the date and the name of the event. Thank you. We're still looking for a winner. The date and the name of the event. The name and the date of the event. Oh, we have a winner. April Johnson. April Johnson, you are the winner of a $30 Amazon gift card. If you would send a direct message to me, I'm Janice Benford, with your email address and phone number, I will make certain that you get your gift card. Congratulations. I will turn it over to you.
I think the date was, it was listed as 11/9, April, and you are correct, but the correct date, and that's neither one's fault, the correct date for the estate planning, I mean, as far as trust, we're going to be talking about trust, will be November 14th.
Okay.
That's the correct date. But I
Okay,
think he did say 11-9, and if I'm not mistaken, because some people say 11-9 and 11-19. But I think that is my fault. The correct date is 11-14.
okay. The notes that I have from you says 1119 estate planning.
It's the 14th. My
Okay,
bad. So
all right.
maybe we're gonna go ahead and yeah, give that to April. It's the 14th.
April Johnson. Congratulations, April, and thank you.
Yeah, because I think the 9th is on a Saturday of November, and this is gonna be a Thursday night at 7 p.m. I think the 9th is on a Saturday.
Now, April did say 1119 estate planning, and I
It's
know
the
you said the 14th.
14th. It's the
Yes.
14th.
Mhm.
That's the correct date.
All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, congratulations, April, and thank you guys. Thank you so much. Now I'm gonna go to your questions, Q&A. What questions do you have for Jeannie? Are you ready have you planned your estate? Everyone in the chat, do you have a will or do you have a trust, or are you ready, or have you even thought about it? No questions? Any ladies from We Knew? Someone said they're in the process of doing it, a trust. They're working on it now, Jeannie, and working on their trust now. Any other advice you want to give, Jeannie?
Well, I would just say that if you're working on your trust now and you would like to have a review of your assets and your plan to make sure that what you're putting in your trust is viable, I am certainly more than willing to do that. I give complimentary reviews. I did place in the chat my digital information that takes you to my Linktree site. Unfortunately, when I had to switch computers, I had a QR code to put up, but I don't know that it. I don't know that it. I don't want to disturb what we're doing to go try to find it on this other device. But if you are preparing that, I certainly would love to talk to you about your financial aspects of what you're doing. I also had, let me see if I can find it again. Hang on just a minute. I had a form to provide, I'm going to find that while you're talking, Deborah, that you could reach out to me to get information on the form that I have for listing what all of your assets are and the information that you need to take to the attorney, as well as if you had any questions on budgeting, savings, all of that. That's all on the Linktree that the Linktree link that I placed in the chat there.
Okay, here's a question I have. With all of this said, by having a will and having a trust, there's one question that we see a lot in a lot of families, especially is insurance. A lot of families do not invest into having life insurance. And even before starting a trust or, starting a will, would you suggest, would that be one of the first things that a family member should do is invest into life insurance?
One of the first things that a family member should do is, it depends on your age and the amount of what you want to leave.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'll give you an example. I'm probably full of examples tonight. The other day I went and sat down with someone who said, hey, I want to leave my family $200,000. And they said, but I just realized that although I have $200,000 worth of insurance, worth of whole life insurance, that I'm in my early 60s and probably will live until I'm 80. And at that point in time, the $200,000 will be worth about half of what it's worth now. And so she wanted to purchase another life insurance policy. Now, one thing to understand about me is that in addition to being a life insurance agency, I'm also I'm registered to sell securities. And so that means that when I speak with someone, I have fiduciary responsibilities. That's something that Congress has passed a law on that says that if you're a fiduciary, you have to work in the best interest of your client, not just to make money for yourself. And so when we looked up what it was going to cost for her to get another $200,000 worth of insurance, it was a better solution for her to take that money and do an investment. Now, as soon as you say investment, people say, oh, I don't, the first thing she said is, I don't want to lose any money, Jeannie. And I said, I understand that. Therefore, I can never guarantee that you're not going to lose money. But I said, but I'm going to place you in a very low risk investment. As a matter of fact, it's what we call an income. She's investing for income. So her growth, the income that she receives from her investments is what's going to grow the money so that she has enough when she, so that the amount that she wants to leave her children will be available in 15 to 20 years. So that's kind of a long question, but the answer is the first thing you need to do is make sure that when you pass, number one, your family ain't gonna have to have a GoFundMe. Okay.
Right.
And then number two, that the amount that you want to leave, that it's possible to leave that, and what is the best way to do it. If you are 30 or 40 years old, might be to go get insurance. But if you're starting this in your 60s, certainly, it might be better to have a conservative investment plan that can grow your money with the least amount of risk.
That is very interesting. Makes sense. Makes sense. Larry had a question. Would you recommend an IUL?
No.
No. Why? I don't even know what that is. What is that?
An IUL is an indexed universal life policy. And the reason that I don't recommend them is because I've never read a contract for an IUL that would actually produce what they said it would produce.
Okay.
And usually when you talk to someone, and this is not a product that I would sell, period. I mean, I'm licensed to, but and nothing against people that do sell them, but unless you severely overfund that IUL, it's going to run out of money.
Okay.
And from what I know as someone that, actually works with investing, as it is actually, a lot of people don't know this, but it's actually illegal to call an IUL an investment. It's a savings. So the amount of money that you have to put in an IUL to produce income, to produce what they tell you it's going to do, you might as well put it in a true investment. Even a conservative investment would do better than than the IULs I've seen.
Okay. So another question came from Linda. So this is almost similar to what you just said a few minutes ago. What would you say to someone who says, I will save the money and I don't need life insurance?
You can do that.
Yeah, because I heard a lot of people say they do that.
You can do that. And you can save the money. That can be done. And because if you have to invest. Even Dave Ramsey, I listened to this for years. I didn't understand it. You cannot save your way to wealth, but you can invest. You can invest as long as you know that your family is going to be taken care of. If something happens to you, you can invest the money and self-insure.
Okay. Great questions. Any more? Okay. Well, Jeannie, thank you so much. for being our speaker for this evening on Estate Planning 101. We totally appreciate your time and giving us your wisdom and knowledge. I mean, some of it was depressing after learning the answers to these questions. But I think it was excellent. Hey, we might have you to come back for part 2. You never know. After we have this this trust.
Thank you.
Hope we come back to that one as well.
I would enjoy that. I'm also putting my email in the chat if anybody has a question that maybe they didn't want to ask in front of everybody.
Okay.
You could
Perfect.
share that.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for tuning in to our Estate Planning 101.